Hello, and welcome back to This is Therapy 20 Minutes in the Mind of a Nigerian. I'm so glad you're here. This is a space for honest conversations about our inner lives, the thoughts we carry, the emotions we manage, and the pressures we often do not talk about. Each episode is a pause, a chance to slow down, to reflect, and gently explore what's happening beneath the surface of everyday Nigerian life. This isn't advice, this isn't a diagnosis, and this isn't about having everything figured out. It's about awareness, it's about context, it's about making space for what we feel. Let's begin. So, I want you to think about the last time you handled something well, in quotes. Like you got hit with bad news, or a deadline blew up in your face, or someone disrespected you. And you didn't cry, you didn't fall apart, you didn't crash out, you just sort of handled it. You put your problem solving skills to the test, you just kept moving, and people around you said something like, "Oh my god, you're so strong. Wow." Yeah. So that's what I want to talk about today, because sometimes what looks like strength is just you being in survival mode, and the two of those things are not the same. So here's the plan for today. I'm going to break this podcast episode into three parts. The first part is what survival mode actually is, not the textbook or Google definition, but the real version. The second is why it's so hard to clock that you are in survival mode, why it's so hard to know that you're in survival mode. And then the third is the unlearning part, because is knowing does not change anything, right? So you need to practice, you need to unlearn, and you need to learn the right thing to do. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not coming at this from a place of, oh, I have everything figured out and let me teach you. I'm coming from a place of still unlearning and still relearning. Some days I do it well. Some days I catch myself 3 hours deep, and sometimes stopping when you catch yourself feels scarier than continuing. So let's figure this out together. Part one: what survival mode actually looks like. So let's start with, when you hear survival mode, you probably picture something dramatic, a crisis, an emergency, running from danger. But survival mode for a lot of us doesn't look like that. It looks like functioning. It looks like saying, "I'm fine," so fast when someone asks, "How are you?" It doesn't even feel like a lie anymore because you've gotten used to saying it. It also looks like being the one who always has things together, so nobody's checking up on you. It could also look like overworking, because if you're busy, you don't have the time to feel anything under what you're working on. It could look like struggling to rest because somehow rest feels unsafe. It feels like something bad will happen when you begin to rest. And it could also be being hyper independent. So, not because you love doing everything alone, but because somewhere along the way, asking for help stopped feeling like an option for you. Now, here's the thing nobody tells you: survival mode is not a personality flaw. It's not something you were born with, it's more of a response. Your nervous system has learned at some point that this is the safest way to move around in this world, in this years that we are living. Um, and the thing is, this probably started years ago. It probably started for a specific season, maybe a toxic job, a toxic relationship, a household where you had to keep reading the room before you were able to speak. And it worked. That's the part that we don't say enough. Survival mode worked at that time. It got you through that season, and that's where the problem lies. So now your body doesn't know that the danger is over, so it keeps running the same program long after the situation that created that program is gone. So now you have to remember that you are not in danger anymore, but then your body is still bracing you up like you are. Now, the second time, why is it so hard to notice that you're in survival mode? So if survival mode is so common, why does it take you years to even recognize it in yourself? A few reasons come to mind. One, because it is praised. So productivity, independence, not being a burden, staying composed, handling pressure. Culturally, we reward all of this. Society rewards this kind of behavior. Nobody is pulling you aside to say this your constant hustle might be a trauma response. Instead, people are saying, oh my god, you are so hardworking, you're so disciplined, and that's a problem. The second reason is it feels like an identity. It doesn't look like a pattern. You don't think I'm in survival mode right now. What you're thinking is, I'm a hard worker, I'm very independent, I don't need much from people. And that has woven so tightly into how you see yourself that questioning your survival mode feels like questioning your existence, right? The third reason is that slowing down feels dangerous and it doesn't feel as peaceful as it should be. And so, for people who have lived in survival mode for a very long time, rest doesn't feel relaxing, it just feels very exposed. So, when the place is quiet, your feelings catch up to you, and that feels really threatening, right? That feels more threatening than when you're in motion, when you're constantly in motion. I want you to think, I want you to pause on that for a bit. We assume sometimes that everybody wants to rest, but they don't have time to rest. But some of us low key avoid the rest because resting and stillness means that you have to actually feel the thing you've been running from. It's not laziness, it's not dramatic. That's just what happens when your body has spent a long time associating safety with motion. And four, the last reason why it's difficult to know that you're in survival mode is because sometimes the people around you benefit from you staying in survival mode. Yeah, yeah. Like your job that runs on you over functioning, your business that seems to thrive when you're overworked. Healing this isn't just an internal shift, it can also mean that boundaries will be set up. It also means that relationships will have to adjust, and that can look very uncomfortable. So, because of that, we avoid it completely. So, if you're sitting here thinking, this is very accurate and it's very uncomfortable, first take a breath. Breathe in, breathe out. You are not broken. You just adapted to a situation that you have not recovered from. The goal isn't to shame you or shame that version of you that built this. The goal is to let you know that you don't have to continue doing this anymore. Now, let's talk about what that looks like. So, the third part of this episode is the unlearning, the part where you unlearn and then you know what next to do. So, unlearning your survival mode isn't a one time decision. It's not after listening to this, you're like, I'm healed. I'm no longer in survival mode. Now, it's small, repeated, and uncomfortable practices. Now, let's look at a few places you can actually start from in case you're wondering, where do I start from? The first place you can start from is that you start noticing your baseline and you don't get to your breaking point. So, most of us check in with ourselves when we're already overwhelmed, right? So, try checking in before you get overwhelmed. Just a few times a day, just ask, what's my body doing right now? Why are my shoulders tense? Am I holding my breath? Am I frowning my face? You're just trying to notice it, right? You're not necessarily fixing yourself. You're just trying to notice it. Oh, my shoulders are tense. Why is my shoulder tense right now? Can I just relax them? Why am I holding my breath? Can I breathe normally, right? The second way you can start is to start tolerating rest in small doses. You don't go from being always active to having a full day where you do nothing. That could be great. But if you have built a pattern of always working, then going a full day or a full week without doing anything can feel unbearable, and when you do it once, you're going to abandon it. So try 5 minutes, sit down without your phone, lie down and just be there. Don't scroll on your phone. This is not the time for you to scroll. And if your thoughts now become overwhelming, if anxious thoughts now show up, because they will, that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It's just your nervous system trying to recalibrate, right? Let the discomfort come, but stay there with it and try to figure out, why am I anxious? What exactly is making me anxious, right? And try to name things, try to identify things. Okay, what is leading to this? How did we get here? And then by the time you trace it, you'll probably feel better, right? The third way to unlearn is to get curious instead of critical. So, like I said before, when the anxious thoughts come, instead of um being critical, be curious. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? How did this get here? And sometimes when you find yourself overworking, overcommitting, saying I'm fine, resist the urge to spiral into self-judgment. Instead, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Or, I'm noticing this pattern again. What am I trying to avoid feeling? And that shift changes everything. Curiosity keeps you able to work on whatever the problem is, but trying to shame yourself or judge yourself just makes you want to quit. And the fourth way of unlearning and learning is to practice asking for help. You don't have to start with like a very big scary ask. You can start small. Ask someone to help you pick an outfit, ask someone to help you pick a restaurant or a snack or a meal. Ask someone a question that you probably already know the answer of, or the answer to, but you just like want a second opinion. Let yourself feel the discomfort of needing another person, of needing someone's opinion, of needing help. In a situation where the stakes are low, right? Start there. It'll feel weird, but just start there and then you find out that it's better. Now, the fifth and the last point I'm going to give is that you should redefine what strength means to you. So, if your current definition of strength is I don't need anybody, I'm strong, I can't fall apart, I just need to push through ahead, that definition is keeping you stuck. Sometimes real strength includes resting, it includes being soft, it includes saying, I'm not okay, it includes sitting down with uncomfortable thoughts, it includes asking for support and not seeing yourself as a failure. This redefinition can shift everything because so much of survival mode is held in place by what we think we're supposed to be. So I'm going to leave you with this. There was a season that I prided myself on never being the one who needed checking on. You know, I was everybody's person. I knew when to show up. I knew how to handle things. I knew how to not make a big deal out of anything. And it took me a while to realize that that wasn't strength. That was me being scared of what will happen if I stop being useful to the people around me for just 5 minutes. So, unlearning that did not happen overnight, and honestly, I still catch myself slipping back into it. Sometimes, but I'm working on it, right? And every time I catch myself, it gets easier to choose differently. And that's the whole point, not to be perfect, but for it to be easier every time that you practice. So, if there's one thing you're going to take from today, let it be that the version of you that built the survival mode was not weak. That version was resourceful. That version was going through things and needed to survive. But now you're grown, you're an adult, and you get to decide now whether that's still the way you want to live. And if you want to practice something different, you can do it slowly. It will be imperfect, but it will be on your own timeline. So, thanks for spending this 20 minutes with me. Well, about 20 minutes with me. If this episode resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. You don't need to rush the process. Follow our podcast for more conversations like this. And if you'd like additional support, reach out to us at www.neuraservices.org or reach us on Instagram at Neura Services. Take care and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.